Billionaire pretends to be poor at a diner, but only a poor mother and her daughter decide to share their meal with him. Caleb Morgan had everything, literally everything. 3 mansions spread across different countries, a car collection that would impress any enthusiast, profitable companies on 5 continents, and a bank account with so many zeros that he himself had lost count. At 38, he built an empire from scratch. He started selling security software out of his garage and, 15 years later, commanded one of the largest tech firms in North America. Business magazines put his face on the cover. Journalists competed for interviews. Investors begged for meetings. His name was synonymous with success, ambition, and foresight. Caleb Morgan was the man who turned ideas into gold. But there was one detail no one saw on the magazine covers. Caleb Morgan was profoundly lonely. He had no real friends, only associates, business partners, people who orbited him wanting something, money, connections, opportunities, his family. Well, they called. They always called, but only when they needed something. A loan here, a favor there. They never called just to ask how he was. And as for love, that ship had sunk a long time ago. 3 years ago, Caleb was engaged. Amanda Prescott, beautiful, elegant, sophisticated, with a last name that opened doors on Park Avenue. She was everything he thought he wanted, refined, cultured, always impeccable. He planned a future with her. He imagined children, quiet afternoons, growing old together. Until 2 weeks before the wedding, his world fell apart. It was a Saturday afternoon. Amanda had gone to the salon, or that's what she said. Caleb was home, working, when he borrowed her laptop. His battery was dead. When he opened the screen, the messages were there. Open. Explicit. Conversations with another man. They weren't just romantic texts. They were confessions, plans. Amanda was pregnant, 2 months along, and the baby wasn't Caleb's, it was Marcus's, an ex-boyfriend who had never completely left her life. But the worst part wasn't the betrayal. The worst part was the plan. In the messages, Amanda explained everything to her lover. She was going to marry Caleb, have the baby, wait a year or 2, then file for divorce and secure a millionaire's alimony. She and Marcus had even chosen the country where they would move afterwards. Caleb read every word, sitting there, feeling something inside him slowly die. He cancelled the wedding on Monday. He sent Amanda away. She cried, screamed, begged, denied everything, said the messages were fake, that someone had hacked her account. But Caleb was no fool. Since then, he shut down. He stopped trusting people. He stopped opening up. He built walls so high around himself that no one could reach him anymore. Work, meetings, contracts, that was all. No feelings, no risks. But over time, something began to ache. It wasn't ordinary loneliness. It was an immense void that occupied every corner of his soul. Caleb woke up in silk sheets, in a 10-bedroom mansion, and felt more alone than a castaway on a desert island. He looked in the mirror and no longer recognized the man he saw. Who was that? A successful entrepreneur? An empty billionaire? A broken man pretending to be whole? It was then that a question began to pound in his head. Does kindness still exist in the world? True kindness, with no ulterior motives? Caleb wanted to know. He needed to know, because if it still existed, perhaps there was hope. And that's how, on a cloudy Tuesday, he decided to run a test. He opened his closet and ignored the Italian suits. He rummaged in the back and found faded jeans, a plain grey t-shirt, and a moss-green hoodie. He put it all on, took off his Swiss watch, left the leather wallet at home, and only took a few crumpled bills and coins. He looked at himself in the mirror, an ordinary man, tired, invisible, perfect. He left home without telling anyone. No driver, no security, no cell phone, just him and the city. He walked to the bus stop and waited. When the bus arrived, he got on, paid the fare, and sat in the back. No one looked at him, no one cared. He got off downtown, in an area he only knew from driving past. Busy streets, cracked sidewalks, small shops, hurried people. Life was happening there in a way he hadn't seen for years. Kids running, vendors shouting, women haggling. It was all so human, so real. Caleb walked for nearly half an hour, just observing, and then he saw it, a small restaurant, squeezed between a pharmacy and a fabric store. The facade was simple, with peeling paint and a wooden sign that read, "The Family Diner." Nothing fancy, just an ordinary place. He took a deep breath and walked in. The bell chimed. A few heads turned and went back to their conversations. Caleb chose a table in the corner near the window. He sat down and waited. 5 minutes passed. A waitress in a red apron walked straight past him, carrying plates to another table. He tried to make eye contact. She didn't even notice. A couple nearby received menus, ordered drinks, and were served with smiles. Caleb kept waiting. 10 minutes. He raised his hand discreetly. Nothing. The same waitress passed again, wiping a table. Caleb cleared his throat. She didn't turn her head. 15 minutes. A group of friends walked in laughing, took the next table, and were immediately served. Orders taken, sodas delivered, lively conversation. Caleb watched everything in silence. No one saw him. No one cared. And, strangely, he wasn't angry. He was merely confirming something he already suspected. Invisibility was the price of simplicity. When you have nothing to offer, you don't exist. Finally, after 20 minutes, the waitress stopped near him, but not with kindness, with impatience. "What'll you have?" Caleb looked up at her. He saw the weariness in her eyes, the stooped posture of someone who spends all day on their feet. "A glass of water, please." She frowned. "That's it. That's all." The waitress rolled her eyes, scribbled something, and walked away. Caleb stayed there alone while the diner buzzed around him. Conversations, laughter, clanking silverware, life happening. And he, there, completely ignored. The water arrived 5 minutes later, in a stained glass, with old ice. The waitress practically slammed the glass on the table and left. Caleb picked up the glass, looked at the cloudy water, and wondered if that was all people deserved when they had nothing. He took a sip. The water was lukewarm. He stayed there for another 15 minutes, just observing. Couples having dinner, families laughing, friends celebrating. Everyone seemed so connected, so alive, and he, with all the money in the world, felt dead inside. That's when the door opened again. The bell chimed, and this time something shifted. A young woman walked in, around 25, with blonde hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She was naturally pretty, without makeup, with tired but still bright blue eyes. She wore clean but worn clothes, jeans with a patch on the knee, scuffed sneakers, a white blouse that had seen better days, and beside her, holding tightly to her hand, was a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 5. Also blonde, with fine hair falling over her shoulders, huge clear eyes observing everything with curiosity. She wore a faded, slightly short pink dress, plastic sandals on her feet, a patched-up backpack on her back. The two stopped at the entrance. The woman looked around, searching for a table. The diner was full. There were only 2 free, one in the center, exposed, and one near Caleb, more discreet. They walked towards him. The woman helped the girl climb into the chair, took off the little backpack, and only then sat down. She took a deep breath, closing her eyes for a second, as if this moment were a rare luxury. The waitress appeared almost immediately, much faster than she had been with Caleb. "Hi, Maya. Everything okay, honey?" "Yes, Rose." The woman, Maya, smiled. It was a tired but genuine smile. "We'll have 1 plate of spaghetti and meatballs, your red sauce one." Adapted food reference from macaronada to American diner staple. "Just one?" "Just one. We'll share it." There was no shame in her voice, just honesty. The waitress looked at the little girl who was swinging her legs and then at Maya. Something crossed her face. Compassion. She nodded and walked away. Caleb watched everything. He couldn't look away. The little girl pulled a crumpled coloring book and a red pencil from her backpack. Maya smiled, took the pencil, checked the tip, and handed it back. "Just this one for now, sweetie. Or we'll lose the others." "Okay, Mommy." The girl's voice was sweet, full of innocence. She began coloring with concentration, tongue sticking out. Maya stayed there, quiet, just observing her daughter with a look Caleb recognized. It was pure love. Love that aches. Love that carries the world and still smiles. The plate arrived 10 minutes later. Large and steaming, smelling of tomato and basil. The waitress left 2 forks and winked at Maya. "Thank you, Rose," Maya said softly. The little girl dropped the pencil, her eyes wide. "Mommy, it smells good." "Then let's eat, okay? Before it gets cold." Maya served a generous portion onto her daughter's side and took a much smaller one for herself. It was at that moment that the girl turned her head and looked directly at Caleb. He froze. The child's clear eyes were fixed on him, curious, innocent, without judgment, and then she turned to her mother and whispered, but loud enough, "Mommy, is he hungry like us?" Maya followed her daughter's gaze. She saw Caleb there, alone. She saw the empty glass. She saw the table with no food, and something shifted in her face. She hesitated for 2 seconds, looked at the plate, looked at him, looked at her daughter, and then she got up from her chair. She picked up the plate they had just received, their dinner, and walked over to Caleb. His eyes widened. "Excuse me." Her voice was soft but firm. "We ordered too much." "Want to share with us?" Caleb was speechless. "You can eat, mister. We'll share." The little girl appeared next to her mother, smiling with 2 missing front teeth. Pure, disarming. "Mommy, is he hungry like us?" Maya placed the plate on his table, picked up the extra fork, and served him a generous portion. Without waiting for confirmation, without asking for anything in return, "We always share," she said, looking him in the eye. "No one should go hungry when there's food on the table. My mother always said that." And then, before he could react, she walked back to her table, picked up her daughter and sat down. The 2 began eating what was left, sharing, laughing softly, as if they hadn't just done something extraordinary. Caleb looked at the plate. Steam was rising. It smelled good. But what truly hit him wasn't the food. It was the gesture. They had so little. And yet, they gave. He felt something burn in his eyes. He blinked quickly. He couldn't cry. He ate slowly, each forkful different. It wasn't the taste. It was the meaning. It was humanity. It was the kindness he thought no longer existed. When he finished, he called the waitress over. "I want to pay for their bill too." The waitress smiled strangely. "Oh, honey, they already asked to pay for yours." Caleb felt like he'd been punched. "What do you mean?" Maya asked to put everything on her bill. "Said you looked lonely and no one deserves to eat alone." He couldn't answer. He just nodded, paid for everything, and left a generous tip. Then he walked out of the diner with shaky legs, but he didn't leave. He stood across the street, hidden, watching. He waited until Maya and Sophie left. They appeared 5 minutes later, holding hands, the girl skipping, the mother smiling with that beautiful weariness of someone who loves. And Caleb followed them, not to scare them, but because he needed to know. He needed to understand who these people were, who did what the whole world should do, but no one does. They took a bus. He hailed a cab and asked the driver to follow from a distance. They got off in a simple neighborhood, with narrow streets, dim lamp posts, small houses. They walked to a house at the end of the street, small, with peeling paint, but clean, with tiny flowers planted in an old can on the window. Sophie skipped inside. Maya locked the door, and Caleb stood there, rooted to the corner, looking at that house. Something inside him had changed. For the first time in 3 years, he felt something beyond emptiness. He felt hope, and he knew in that moment that his life would never be the same. 2 days had passed since that Tuesday at the diner, 2 days in which Caleb couldn't stop thinking about those 2. The blonde girl with clear eyes who saw a hungry stranger and wanted to share. The mother who taught her daughter to see others, even having so little. He tried to go back to his routine, meetings, contracts, reports, but nothing made sense. The executive's words sounded empty. The numbers in the spreadsheet seemed unimportant. Everything he had built suddenly seemed small compared to that simple gesture in the diner. Caleb spent both nights awake, staring at the ceiling of the enormous bedroom, thinking. For the first time in 3 years, something inside him had stirred. Something he thought was dead. On Thursday morning, he made a decision. He put on an impeccable navy blue suit, adjusted his tie in the mirror, and picked up his car keys. He drove to that simple neighborhood with narrow streets and houses close together. He parked on the corner and walked to the house at the end of the street. The same small house, the same peeling paint, the same flowers planted in the old can on the window. Caleb stopped in front of the worn wooden door and took a deep breath. His heart was pounding. He didn't know exactly what he was going to say. He didn't have a plan. He just knew he needed to be there. He knocked on the door 3 times. Light footsteps on the other side. The door opened, and there she was, Sophie. The blonde girl in the pink dress, now wearing a light blue set with her hair loose over her shoulders. She looked at him, blinked twice, and then her clear eyes widened in recognition. "Mommy! Mommy!" she shouted, turning her head but not taking her eyes off Caleb. "It's the man from the diner, the one who was hungry." Caleb couldn't help but smile. Heavier footsteps approached. Maya appeared behind her daughter, drying her hands with a dish towel. She wore simple shorts and a faded t-shirt, her blonde hair tied up in a messy bun. When she saw Caleb, she stopped. Her clear eyes narrowed, immediate suspicion. "Sophie, go inside," she said in a firm but calm voice. "But Mommy." "Now, sweetie." The girl obeyed, but kept peeking from the hallway. Maya crossed her arms and leaned against the doorframe. It wasn't hostility, it was protection, the posture of someone who has been fooled before and learned to be wary. "Can I help you?" Her voice was controlled. Caleb swallowed hard. Suddenly, all the words he had rehearsed on the way vanished. I just wanted to thank you for what you did at the diner." Maya said nothing. She just waited. "That gesture of yours woke me up. It made me want to believe again." She remained silent, studying him. Her eyes scrutinized the expensive suit, the watch on his wrist, the imported car parked on the corner, and then they returned to his face, searching for something. Sincerity, perhaps. Truth. "You didn't need to come all the way here just to say thank you." She finally said, "I know, but I needed to meet you. To understand who does something like that." "Something like that?" Maya raised an eyebrow. "Share food. Any decent person would." "No." Caleb shook his head. "Any decent person should do it, but no one does. I spent 20 minutes in that diner being ignored, and you had so little and still gave." Something shifted in her face. The suspicion lessened a little. It didn't vanish, but it lessened. "We don't have much," Maya said softly, "but we have enough to share. My mother taught me that way, and I teach my daughter the same way." "Your mother was a wise woman." "She was." Pain quickly crossed her eyes. "She died 3 years ago, but she left the lesson." Caleb nodded, respecting the silence that followed. Sophie appeared again in the hallway, now holding a cloth doll. "Mommy, can he come in?" Her high-pitched, lively voice broke the tension. "He seems nice, and he ate the food I gave him." Maya looked at her daughter, looked back at Caleb, and then, with a sigh that carried 1,000 worries, she stepped aside. "Come in." Caleb entered. The house was tiny. A living room that was also a kitchen, with an old wooden table, 2 mismatched chairs, a threadbare but clean couch covered with a colorful blanket. Everything was simple, but everything was cared for. There were dried flowers in a glass on the window, child's drawings stuck on the refrigerator with magnets, photos in a cheap frame showing Maya and Sophie smiling. It was a home. Small, but it was a home. Maya closed the door and pointed to the couch. "Sit down." He sat. Sophie ran and sat next to him, looking with curiosity. "Are you rich?" the girl asked bluntly. "Sophie," Maya reprimanded, but Caleb laughed. "I am," he answered honestly. "So very rich. Then why were you alone in the diner and hungry?" "Sophie, that's enough," Maya said, but there was curiosity in her eyes too. Caleb looked at Maya. "I wanted to test something. I wanted to know if real kindness still existed in the world. So I dressed simply and went to a diner. I only asked for water. I was ignored by everyone. Until you showed up." Maya sat down in the chair opposite, still with her arms crossed. And what did you find out? That it does, he said, looking into her eyes, that there are still good people, people who care, people who see others, and that those people sometimes are the ones who have the least. Sophie swung her legs, smiling. A grandma said we have to share, always. Your grandmother was right. Maya studied him for a few more seconds, and then, as if making a decision, she relaxed her shoulders a little. Around here, no one promises anything. Whoever stays is for real. Caleb understood the message. It was a warning, but it was also an invitation. I understand. I don't know if you do understand, Maya said, her voice firm. I don't know who you are, I don't know what you want, but I know I have a daughter to protect, and I won't let anyone into her life if they're not going to stay. I didn't come here to hurt you, Caleb said sincerely. I came because you reminded me of something I had forgotten. That there are good people in the world, and I wanted to meet you, I wanted to know more. Maya watched him. She saw something in his face. Loneliness, perhaps, truth. Okay, she finally said. You want to know? Then I'll tell you. Sophie snuggled onto the couch, hugging her doll as if she already knew her mother was going to tell her story. Maya took a deep breath. I started working when I was 14. My mum got sick and someone had to pay the bills, so I quit school and went to learn how to do nails. I took a course at a cheap little salon, the kind that charges almost nothing, and I started working. She looked at her own hands as if she could still see the girl she was. I worked in several places. Some good, some bad. I earned little, but it was enough. My mother got a little better but never went back to work, so I supported both of us. You were 14, Caleb said softly, more to himself than to her. I was, but I didn't have a choice. Maya shrugged. When I was 19, I met Sophie's dad. I thought he was different. I thought we would build something together. Her voice grew harder. When I told him I was pregnant, he disappeared, literally. He moved away, changed his number, blocked everything. I never saw him again, never heard anything. Sophie looked at her mother with those big eyes and said, But it's okay, right, Mommy? We have each other, Maya smiled, and it was the most beautiful smile Caleb had ever seen. We do, my love. She looked back at Caleb. My mother died when Sophie was 2, cancer, quick, and then it was just me and her. I still work as a nail technician. I do nails at home. I go to clients' houses. I work at a salon twice a week. I do what I can. It's not much, but it's honest, and we're okay, we manage. There was pride in her voice, pride of someone who fights, who doesn't give up, who raises a daughter alone and still teaches her to share with those who are hungry. Caleb felt an immense admiration for that woman. You're incredible, he said simply. Maya blinked, surprised. I'm nothing special. I just do what any mother would do. No. Caleb leaned forward. You do more. Much more. You taught your daughter to see others, to care, to share, even having little. That is rare. That is special. Maya looked away, clearly uncomfortable with the compliment. Caleb took a deep breath. It was time. I want to do something for you. Her eyes snapped back to him immediately, the suspicion returning. We don't need charity. It's not charity, he said quickly. It's a proposition, a business one. What kind of proposition? I want to open a salon with you as partners. Maya's eyes widened. What? You bring the talent. I bring the structure. Are you crazy? You don't even know me. I know, Caleb said calmly, but I've seen enough. I saw that you work hard. I saw that you are honest. I saw that you have a good heart, and I know how to recognize talent when I see it. How long have you been a nail technician? At 11 years. 11 years of experience. Do you have a clientele? I have some regular clients, yes. Then you know how to do the job. You know how to deal with people. You know what works and what doesn't. You have everything you need. All that's missing is the right place, and I can give you that. Maya shook her head, incredulous. Doit, why would you do that? Because you gave me something I couldn't find anymore, hope, and because I can, because I have money to spare and no reason to use it, and because I want to do something that matters, something real. Sophie, who had been quiet until then, jumped up on the couch, excited. "Will it have mirrors with lights?" Caleb laughed, surprised. "So it will have mirrors with lights, yes, and spinning chairs. As many as you want." The girl clapped her hands, thrilled, but Maya was still in shock. "I don't know. This is too much. It's too fast." "I know," Caleb said calmly. "And you don't have to decide now. Think about it. Take as long as you want. But the offer is real. I want to do this. With you." Maya looked at her daughter, who was grinning from ear to ear. She looked back at Caleb. "What if it doesn't work out?" "We'll make it work out," he said with conviction. "You know the work. I know business. Together, we'll build something good. Something yours. Mine. Yours. The salon would be registered in your name too. 50-50 partnership. You don't work for me, you work with me." Maya was silent, processing. Sophie turned to her mother with those huge eyes. "Mommy, you would have your own salon, just like you always dreamed." "I never told you that," Maya said softly. "But I know," the girl smiled. "You look at the photos on your phone, of pretty salons, I see you." Maya swallowed hard. Her eyes glistened, but she blinked quickly. Caleb waited. He didn't pressure her. He just waited. Finally, after a silence that seemed to last an eternity, Maya looked at him. "If we do this, it has to be the right way. No treating me like you're doing me a favor. We're partners or we're nothing." "Partners," Caleb confirmed. "Equal. And no empty promises. If you come in, you stay." "I stay." Maya studied his face, looking for any sign of a lie. She didn't find one. "Okay," she finally said, her voice still uncertain, but with a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "We can try." Sophie shrieked with joy and jumped around her mother's neck. "We're going to have a salon, Mommy. A real salon." Maya hugged her daughter, finally allowing the tears to fall. "We are, my love." Caleb smiled. For the first time in 3 years, he felt like he was doing something that truly mattered, something real, something true. And for the first time, he felt that maybe, just maybe, he could rebuild what was broken inside him, one connection at a time. Saturday dawned sunny, with that kind of golden light that makes everything seem a little more full of possibilities. Caleb parked his car in front of the small house at 9 sharp. He had arranged with Maya to take them downtown to look for the perfect spot for the salon. He had barely slept the night before, mentally planning the neighborhoods that could work, the busiest streets, the available commercial spaces. He knocked on the door 3 times and Sophie answered immediately, already dressed, in a little yellow dress and her blonde hair in 2 braids. "You came," she shouted, jumping excitedly. "Mommy, he came." Maya appeared behind her, drying her hands on a towel. She wore light jeans and a simple white blouse, her blonde hair loose over her shoulders. There was something different about her, a sparkle in her clear eyes. "Hope. Good morning," she said, with a small but genuine smile. "Good morning," Caleb replied. "Is ready to find the perfect place." Sophie took his hand without ceremony. "Are we going in your car?" "We are. Is it pretty?" "Sophie, stop asking that," Maya reprimanded, picking up her bag. "It's okay," Caleb laughed. "It's pretty, yes, and it has leather seats." The girl's eyes sparkled. The drive downtown was filled with Sophie's lively chatter, who wouldn't stop asking questions about the car, about the buildings they passed, about everything. Maya was quiet in the passenger seat, looking out the window, but Caleb noticed the discreet smile at the corner of her mouth. When they reached downtown, Caleb had a mental list of 5 commercial spots that could work. The first was on a busy street, with a lot of foot traffic, but when they went inside, the space was dark, cramped, with a tiny window that barely let any light in. Maya looked around and shook her head immediately. "No, too closed off. Are you sure?" "The location is great," Caleb argued. "I'm sure. A salon needs light. Clients need to see the nail polish color properly, their hair in the mirror. This looks like a cave." Sophie nodded in agreement, making a serious face. "It looks like the witch's house," Caleb laughed. "Okay." Next, the second spot was bigger, with 2 large windows, but it was on a street with no foot traffic at all. Maya barely stepped inside. No one will come all the way here. It has to be somewhere people pass by. Somewhere they see it. Right. Noted. The third was perfect in terms of size and location, but the rent was outrageously expensive. Caleb didn't even blink when he saw the price, but Maya frowned. This will suck up all the profit. It doesn't make sense. I can cover the difference. No, she interrupted him, firm but polite. We're partners, remember. It has to make financial sense. If it doesn't, we don't take it. Caleb nodded, completely respecting her position. He liked that. He liked that she had her own opinion and wasn't afraid to state it. The 4th spot was good, but had a serious leak problem in the ceiling. Maya looked up, saw the damp patches spread across, and was already walking out. Next, Sophie was starting to get tired, dragging her feet and complaining that she was hungry, when they arrived at the 5th and last spot on Caleb's list. It was on a quiet but busy street, with clothing stores, a charming coffee shop, a stationery store, the kind of place where women went shopping and could pop in to get their nails done too. The space had a large storefront window, and when they walked in, Caleb saw Maya's eyes change completely. The salon was empty, with light tile flooring and lifeless white walls. But what really made a difference were the windows. 3 enormous windows that flooded the space with abundant natural light. The morning sun poured in golden, making everything glow, dancing on the white walls. Maya stopped in the middle of the empty salon and just stood there, soaking up the space. Sophie ran to the largest window. "Mommy, look, you can see the whole street, and there's a tree right in front." But Maya wasn't listening. She slowly turned, looking at every corner, every wall, every inch of that place. Her clear eyes were shining in a different way. And then she closed her eyes and took a deep breath, as if absorbing the energy of the place. Caleb waited in silence, respecting the moment. When she opened her eyes again, they were intensely bright, moist. "At this smells like a fresh start." Her voice was choked, full of suppressed emotion. Caleb smiled, feeling his chest tighten in a good way. "Is this the one, Mom, then?" Maya nodded, unable to speak for a few seconds. She just shook her head, tears slowly beginning to fall down her face. Sophie ran to her and hugged her mother's legs tightly. "We found it, Mommy. We found our salon." Maya bent down and hugged her daughter tightly, hiding her face in the girl's blonde hair. Her shoulders trembled slightly. Caleb felt something squeeze in his chest. It wasn't pity. It was something entirely different. It was the feeling of doing something right, something that truly mattered, something that changed lives. He approached and placed his hand gently on Maya's shoulder. "Don't worry, I'll give you all the support." She looked up at him, her eyes red but smiling. "Thank you. Truly, thank you for believing in us. You don't need to thank me. We're in this together, partners." They signed the contract the following Monday. Caleb took care of all the paperwork, but made absolutely sure to put Maya's name on all the documents as a legitimate partner. 50% each, exactly as he had promised. No tricks, no fine print. The renovation began on Wednesday, and that's when everything truly changed. Caleb showed up at the salon on the first morning of renovation with an experienced engineer and a renowned architect. They measured, drew, planned. But the one making all the decisions was Maya. Where the chairs would be, where to put the counters, what color to paint the walls, how to distribute the lighting. "White," the architect suggested, consulting his clipboard. "It's neutral, clean, timeless." "Light pink," Maya said with conviction. "Not hot pink, soft, light pink. It will make the atmosphere welcoming, feminine, without being exaggerated." "Perfect." Caleb agreed without question. Light pink. Sophie was sitting on the dusty floor, drawing in the new notebook Caleb had bought her, when her mother asked, "And you, sweetie, what color do you think looks nice?" "Yellow," the girl shouted without hesitation. "Like the sun, really cheerful. Then we'll do one yellow wall," Maya decided, looking at the architect. "The back wall. Soft yellow, sunflower color, it will bring joy to the space." The architect took notes carefully. Caleb started going every day to monitor the renovation. In the morning, before important meetings, in the afternoon, after lunch, and little by little, he started staying longer. He helped carry heavy material, held the ladder, applied paint to the walls. At first, Maya was quite surprised. "You don't need to do this. We hired qualified people for this." "I know, but I want to help." "You'll ruin your suit. You'll spoil it." Caleb looked at the impeccable Italian suit he was wearing and shrugged. "Then I'll take off the suit." And he did. And he showed up the next day in faded jeans and a simple t-shirt, ready to really work. Maya looked at him with a strange expression. Surprise, perhaps, admiration. The weeks flew by. The renovation was progressing well, and Caleb realized he was spending more and more time with Maya and Sophie, not just at the salon but at their house too. In the beginning, it was just quick conversations. Maya would offer him coffee while they waited for the engineer to arrive. Sophie would show him a new drawing she had made. Small, seemingly unimportant things. But little by little, it became a natural routine. Caleb started showing up early in the morning. Maya always had freshly brewed coffee, smelling of comfort. He would sit at the old kitchen table, drink coffee from mismatched mugs, eat buttered toast that Sophie insisted on spreading for him personally. "You have to spread a lot," the girl said seriously, spreading a generous layer. "Otherwise, it won't taste truly good." And Caleb would eat it, smiling, finding it the most delicious thing in the world. Tastier than any five-star hotel breakfast. He began to notice the small details of their daily life. How Maya always woke up half an hour earlier to make her daughter a hearty breakfast. How she checked Sophie's backpack 3 times before sending her to school, making sure she had everything. How she saved coins in an old glass jar to buy something special for the girl at the end of the month. One day, Sophie was crying sitting at the kitchen table because she had completely forgotten to do her math homework. "I'm going to get in trouble, Mommy. The teacher will be really mad at me." Maya was visibly distraught, trying to comfort her while looking at the clock. "I will do it now, quickly, before class starts. But I don't know how to do it. It's too hard." Caleb, who had just arrived at that exact moment, approached calmly. "Can I see?" Sophie showed him the notebook, sniffing loudly, tears streaming down her face. They were simple addition and subtraction problems, but she was completely confused by the reasoning. "Come here." Caleb pulled up a chair and sat next to her. "Let's do it together, slowly, no rush." He explained with infinite patience, using simple drawings, coins from the table, sticks, whatever was needed for her to understand the concept. Maya stood leaning against the sink, watching in silence, her clear eyes filled with gratitude. Half an hour later, the homework was completely done. Sophie jumped off the chair and hugged Caleb tightly, nearly knocking him over. "Thank you. You are the best in the whole wide world." And Caleb felt something melt inside him, something that had been frozen, hardened for a long time. He started helping with other things too. He fixed the sink faucet that had been annoyingly dripping for months. He changed the burnt-out hallway light bulb that Maya couldn't reach. He helped carry heavy groceries from the store. He assembled the new small table she had bought second-hand. "You don't have to do this," she would say every time, but with less conviction each time. "I know, but I want to." Truly. And it was the absolute truth. He wanted to. For the first time in years, Caleb wanted to do simple things, normal things, ordinary things, things that didn't involve money or closed deals or social status. He wanted to be there, in that small, cramped kitchen, drinking coffee from an old cracked mug, hearing Sophie excitedly talk about school, seeing Maya smile when she managed to get a difficult stain out of her daughter's clothes. It was all so simple, so ordinary, so incredibly different from his world, and so infinitely better. One evening, after Sophie had already gone to sleep, Caleb and Maya stayed in the kitchen talking quietly. He had stayed for dinner, something that was becoming frequent. They had eaten simple spaghetti with homemade tomato sauce, and Caleb had genuinely found it tastier than any dinner at a Michelin-starred restaurant. "Can I ask you a question?" Maya said, absently stirring her coffee. "Of course. Anything. Why are you doing all this?" Caleb looked at her, confused. "The salon?" "No. Well, yes, the salon too. But all of this. You come here every day. You help with everything. You fix things. You stay for dinner, you play with Sophie, you teach her. Why? Why are you really here? He was silent for a long moment, carefully considering his answer. Because you reminded me of what's truly important, he finally said, and with raw sincerity. I spent years building an empire, making money, buying expensive things, collecting achievements. But in the end, I had nothing real, no one real, it was all empty. And then I met you two, and I saw that you have everything that truly matters. You have each other. You have real love. You have genuine joy. You have connection. Things that money can't buy, never will buy. Maya looked at him with deep tenderness. You're allowing yourself to live again, truly live. I think so. He smiled, and it was a different kind of smile, genuine. And it's because of you, completely. Sophie adores you, Maya said softly, almost a whisper. She talks about you all the time, about how nice you are, how you help, how you teach, how patient you are. She's never had that. Never had a presence like that in her life. And you? Caleb asked before he could stop himself. What do you think of me? Maya held his gaze for long seconds. Her clear eyes were serious, honest. I think you're a good person, truly good. You're not faking it, you're not performing. And that is incredibly rare in today's world. They stayed there, in the comfortable silence of the small kitchen, and Caleb realized with absolute clarity that he didn't want to be anywhere else in the world, not in his empty, cold mansions, not in the expensive, impersonal restaurants, not at the parties full of fake people smiling with hidden agendas. He wanted to be right there, at that old white-scratch table, in that cramped kitchen with the dripping sink, with that incredible woman who was teaching him to live again, with that child who reminded him of purity, and for the first time in 3 long, empty years, he felt truly at home in a way his mansions never were. The inauguration day dawned perfect. Cloudless blue sky, bright sunshine, a gentle breeze that rustled the tree in front of the salon. It was as if even the weather was conspiring in their favor. Caleb arrived early, at 7 in the morning, and found Maya already inside. She was cleaning the mirrors for the 3rd time, nervous, her blonde hair pulled back in a high bun. She wore a light pink dress that matched the salon walls perfectly. You didn't sleep, did you? He asked, leaning against the door. Maya turned, startled, and smiled. I slept, sort of, about 2 hours, she admitted. I couldn't stop thinking. What if no one shows up? What if it goes wrong? What if... It will go right, Caleb interrupted firmly. Look at this place. Look at what you built. People will come. Definitely. She looked around. The salon was impeccable. The light pink walls conveyed warmth. The yellow back wall radiated cheerfulness. The mirrors with surrounding lights sparkled. The new spinning chairs were perfectly aligned. The counters organized with quality products. Everything was ready. It is pretty, isn't it? Maya said softly, her eyes shining. It's beautiful, and it's yours. Sophie arrived half an hour later, wearing a yellow dress just like the wall, her hair loose with a headband. She was carrying a stack of flyers that Caleb had printed. I'm going to hand them out to everyone, she announced with conviction. To all the ladies on the street. Are you sure, sweetie? Maya asked. You don't have to. I want to. It's our salon, Mummy. I have to help. And she ran out into the street before Maya could say anything else. Caleb followed her discreetly, just to make sure she was safe. Sophie approached every woman who passed with a huge smile and 2 missing front teeth. Hi! We opened a salon today. Look how pretty, she said, handing out the flyers. My mum does nails. She's the best, and it has mirrors with lights. The women smiled, took the flyers. Some even stroked the girl's hair. Many promised to stop by. At 9 in the morning, the team arrived. Maya had hired 3 people. Julia, an experienced nail technician who had worked with her in a salon years ago. Anna, a young but talented hairdresser who was starting her career. And Denise, an esthetician who did eyebrow design. All hard-working women, all acquaintances of Maya's, all with similar stories. Hard workers, honest, dedicated. This place is beautiful, Julia exclaimed upon entering. Maya, you did it. For real. We did it, Maya corrected, hugging her friend. Caleb stood in the corner, just watching. Maya quickly introduced him as a partner, but made it clear that she ran the salon. She explained the rules, the hours, how commission splitting would work. Everything fair, everything transparent. At 9:30, the first client walked in. It was a woman around 60, grey hair, friendly smile. She had seen Sophie handing out flyers and decided to check it out. "Did you just open?" she asked, looking around. "How lovely. Everything is so clean, so organized." "We opened today," Maya said, her voice trembling slightly with emotion. "Would you like your nails done?" "I would, yes." "And can you do a French manicure? I love it." "Of course. Sit right here." Maya seated the lady in a chair, carefully prepared everything, and began the work. Her hands trembled a little at first, but quickly found their rhythm. The rhythm of someone who had been doing this for 11 years. The rhythm of someone who loved what she did. Sophie sat on the salon floor, coloring and chatting with the lady, who found her adorable. At 10 o'clock, 2 more clients walked in. At 10:30, 3 more. By noon, the salon was packed, all chairs occupied, Julia doing nails, Anna washing hair, Denise taking care of eyebrows, Maya running from one side to the other, serving, organizing, smiling non-stop. Caleb stood there, leaning against the wall near the entrance, just observing, his heart swelling with pride. It wasn't pride for himself. It was pride for her, for Maya, for everything she had achieved. He watched the way she talked to the clients, attentive, kind, genuinely interested. She asked about their lives, their families, their work. It wasn't just professional, it was human. Clients left happy, not just with pretty nails, but with a smile on their face, with the feeling of having been heard, welcomed. "This salon is wonderful," one of the clients said as she left. "I'll definitely be back." "Bring your friends," Sophie shouted from the door, waving. At 3 in the afternoon, Maya finally had 5 minutes to pause. She collapsed into a chair, exhausted, but with eyes shining with pure happiness. Caleb brought her a bottle of water. "Drink this. You need to hydrate." "Thank you." She drank half the bottle at once. "Caleb, it's happening. For real. Look how many clients. Look at the activity. I told you it would work. But it's different seeing it with my own eyes." She looked around, still trying to process. "This place is mine, ours. We did this." "You did this," he corrected. "I just provided the structure. The talent, the work, the dedication, it's all yours." Maya turned to him, her eyes full of tears she didn't try to hide. "Thank you for believing when even I didn't believe anymore." Her voice broke slightly at the end. Caleb knelt in front of her, holding her hand gently. "You always had what it took, always. You just needed the opportunity. And I was lucky to be able to give you that." "It wasn't luck," she said, squeezing his hand. "It was you choosing to believe, choosing to trust, choosing to invest in a stranger you saw in a diner. A stranger who showed me that kindness still exists in the world," he reminded her. "A stranger who shared food with someone she didn't know. You're not a stranger, Maya. You're one of the most incredible people I've ever met." She smiled through the tears. "You've changed too, you know. Since that day at the diner, you're different, lighter, more present, more alive. That's because I learned from you and Sophie. I learned how to live again." Sophie ran over, interrupting the moment. "Mommy, another client arrived." And she said she saw it in the WhatsApp group. The women are sharing it. Maya jumped up. "Seriously, it's already being shared?" "Yes, she showed me. There's a picture of the salon and everything." Maya laughed, incredulous and happy. "We went viral in the neighborhood." The rest of the afternoon was a whirlwind, client after client. The phone ringing with people scheduling appointments, the nail technicians working non-stop, the sound of laughter, conversations, hair dryers, running water, the sound of life happening. When the salon finally closed, at 7 in the evening, everyone was exhausted. Julia, Anna, and Denise said goodbye, happy, celebrating the first day. Maya locked the door and leaned against it, looking at the now empty salon. Sophie was sitting in a chair, swinging her legs, tired but smiling. Caleb was putting some things away. "We did it," Maya said into the silence. "We really did it." "You did it, Mommy," Sophie corrected. "You're the best." Maya walked over to her daughter and picked her up, even though the girl was too big for it. She hugged her tightly. "We did it, my love. Together. You, me, and Caleb." Sophie looked at Caleb over her mother's shoulder. "He's part of the family now, right, Mommy?" Maya was silent for a second. Then she looked at Caleb, who had stopped putting things away and was looking at the two of them. "Yes," she said softly. "I think he is." Caleb felt his chest tighten. He didn't say anything. He just smiled. And in that moment, in that salon that smelled of new beginnings, surrounded by those two people who had completely changed his life, Caleb Morgan knew he had finally found what he was looking for. It wasn't success, it wasn't money, it wasn't recognition, it was belonging, it was family, it was love. And for the first time in his life, he had everything that truly mattered. A week after the inauguration, Caleb showed up at the salon late in the afternoon with a proposal. Maya was finishing up with the last client of the day, applying the final coat of red nail polish to her nails when he walked in. Sophie was sitting on the floor drawing, as always. "Hi!" the girl shouted, dropping her pencil and running to hug him. Caleb easily picked her up. "Hi, champ. How was your day?" "Busy. Mommy didn't stop for a minute." Maya looked at him and smiled, tired but satisfied. The salon had been busy every day since the inauguration. It was more than she had ever dreamed of. "Just one more minute," she said, concentrating on the client's nails. Caleb waited patiently, Sophie still in his arms, telling him about a drawing she had made at school. When Maya finished and the client left satisfied, she could finally breathe. "What a day," she sighed, wiping down the counter. "I wanted to invite you both out for dinner," Caleb said directly. Maya stopped what she was doing. "Dinner?" "Yes, to celebrate. The salon is doing well, the partnership is working. I thought it would be nice to celebrate." "We can have dinner at home," Maya began, but he shook his head. "No, this time I want to take you to a restaurant. A nice place. You deserve it." Sophie jumped up, excited. A real restaurant, with a menu and everything. Caleb laughed. "Nice with a menu and everything." Maya hesitated. She wasn't used to this. Expensive restaurants, dinners out. It wasn't part of her reality. "Caleb, you don't have to—" "I know I don't have to," he interrupted gently. "But I want to. Let me do this for you, please." There was something in his voice, a sincerity that Maya couldn't refuse. "Okay." She gave in. "Cats, but nothing too fancy. I don't have clothes for anywhere too fancy. You are beautiful just the way you are. Always." Maya blushed slightly and looked away. "When?" "Today. Now. If you can." "Today." She looked down at herself, still in her salon uniform. "Stop by home, get ready quickly, I'll wait." Half an hour later, Maya and Sophie were ready. Maya had changed into a simple navy blue dress that highlighted her clear eyes. Sophie wore her favorite yellow dress, her hair loose and shining under the lamplight. Caleb drove them to a restaurant downtown. It wasn't the most expensive in the area, but it was beautiful, cozy, with soft lighting and quiet background music. The kind of place where people went to celebrate special occasions. When they walked in, Sophie's eyes widened. "It's so pretty," she whispered, impressed. The waiter led them to a table near the window. He brought the menus, and Maya felt her stomach clench when she saw the prices. "Caleb, this is too expensive. Order whatever you want." "It's to celebrate our partnership." His voice was firm but gentle. It wasn't condescension, it was genuine generosity. Sophie leafed through the menu, fascinated, even though she didn't understand half of what was written. "What is risotto?" "It's like creamy rice," Maya explained. "Very tasty." "I want it." Maya ordered a simple chicken dish for herself. Sophie ordered the risotto. Caleb ordered a steak. And when the waiter asked about drinks, and he ordered natural juice for Sophie and water for everyone. "No wine?" the waiter asked, surprised. "No wine, thank you." Maya noticed. She noticed that he didn't order alcohol, that he was there, present, truly wanting to enjoy the moment with them. The food arrived and was delicious. Sophie ate the risotto with eyes shining with happiness. Maya savored every bite, trying to etch that moment into her memory. Caleb watched the two of them with a calm smile. "Is it good?" he asked. "It's wonderful," Maya answered sincerely. "Thank you for this, for everything." "You don't need to thank me. You deserve it." They talked about the salon, about the clients, about plans for the future. Sophie told funny stories about school, making them both laugh. It was during dessert, a bread pudding, adapted from Pudim de Lait, that Sophie insisted on trying, that the conversation changed tone. Caleb was silent for a few seconds, as if gathering courage. Then, carefully, he asked, "What about Sophie's father?" Maya's fork stopped midair. She looked at him, surprised by the direct question. Sophie continued eating the pudding, distracted by the creamy texture. Maya took a deep breath. She placed her fork back on the plate. "He left when he found out I was pregnant. She's never met him." Her voice was calm but carried years of stored pain. "We had been dating for about 6 months. I thought it was serious. I thought we would build something together." She looked down, fiddling with the napkin. "When I told him I was pregnant, he just went silent, didn't say anything. The next day he had vanished. Moved away, changed his number, blocked me everywhere." "Maya," Caleb began, but she continued. "I tried to find him. I tried to talk to his family. Nothing. He just disappeared, as if the baby and I didn't exist." She discreetly wiped away a tear that escaped. "My mother helped me a lot. She stayed with me throughout the pregnancy, supported me. But when Sophie was born, he wasn't there, never has been, and probably never will be." Sophie looked at her mother, noticing the change in the conversation's tone. "It's okay, Mommy. I don't need a dad. I have you." Maya smiled through the tears and stroked her daughter's blonde hair. "You do, my love." Caleb was silent for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with contained emotion. "She deserves so much more, and so do you." Maya looked at him. There was something different in the way he looked at her. It wasn't pity, it was respect. It was admiration. "Thank you," she said softly. "You raised an incredible girl all by yourself. You worked, you fought, you never gave up. And you still taught her to be generous, to care about others. That is rare. You are amazing, Maya." She looked away, clearly uncomfortable with the praise, but smiling. "I just did what I had to do." "No, you did much more than you had to do. You made the extraordinary seem ordinary." Sophie, realizing the moment was getting emotional, changed the subject with the naturalness of children. "Caleb, do you have a kid?" "Sophie," Maya reprimanded, but Caleb shook his head. "It's okay." He looked at the girl. "No, I don't have children." "Why?" "Sophie, you shouldn't ask that." Maya tried to intervene, but Caleb smiled. "Because I never found the right person to build a family with, and for a long time, I didn't even think I wanted that." "And now?" Sophie asked, with that innocent curiosity. Caleb looked at Maya, then at Sophie. "Now I think I've changed my mind." The silence that followed was heavy with meaning. Maya held his gaze for a few seconds before looking away, her heart beating faster. The rest of the dinner flowed smoothly. Light conversation, laughter, Sophie telling more stories. But something had changed. Something had been said without words. When they left the restaurant, the night was cool and starry. Sophie walked ahead, skipping, still excited about the special dinner. Maya and Caleb walked side by side in comfortable silence. "Thank you," she said again, "for dinner, for the talk, for everything." "Thank you," he replied, "for trusting me, for letting me be a part of your lives." "You already are a part," Maya said simply. "I don't know what it would be like without you anymore." Caleb felt his chest tighten in a good way. They reached the car, and he opened the door for them. Sophie got in, talking non-stop about the pudding. Maya got in quieter, but with a small smile on her lips. During the drive back, Caleb looked in the rearview mirror and saw Sophie almost asleep in the back seat, her head tilting to the side. Maya looked out the window, lost in her own thoughts, and he realized, with absolute clarity, that those two people had become the most important in his life. They were no longer just the woman and girl he had helped. They were family. And for the first time in a long time, Caleb allowed himself to imagine a future with them. The weeks passed, and Caleb became a part of their routine in such a natural way that it seemed like he had always been there. He showed up every morning for coffee. He arrived when the sun was still rising, knocked on the door 3 times, and Maya already had the coffee ready. The 3 of them would sit at the kitchen table, eating buttered toast, talking about the plans for the day. Sophie talked about her school lessons. Maya commented on her scheduled clients. Caleb shared funny stories from meetings or simply listened, smiling, absorbing the peace he had never felt before. After coffee, he took Sophie to school. The girl loved riding in his car, singing children's songs on the way, and Caleb sang along without any embarrassment. He dropped her off at the door, waited until she went inside and waved, and only then did he leave. Mid-morning, he would stop by the salon to see how Maya was doing. Sometimes he would bring her a coffee because he knew she forgot to eat when she was busy. She always smiled when she saw him walk in, that smile that made her clear eyes sparkle. At lunchtime, he often ate with them. Maya prepared simple food, rice, beans, a steak, a salad, adapted U.S. staples, nothing sophisticated, but Caleb found it delicious. He thought it had more flavor, more life than any expensive meal he had ever eaten. In the afternoon, he picked Sophie up from school. The girl would run out, her backpack bouncing on her back, and jump into the car, telling him everything that had happened, every detail, every game, every discovery. And Caleb listened to it all with genuine attention. At home, he helped with homework. He sat next to her at the table, patient, explaining math, English, science. Sophie sometimes got frustrated, but he never lost his temper. Let's try again, slowly. You can do it. And she would smile proudly. And Caleb felt immense satisfaction with every accomplishment of that child. Maya watched all of this with a mixture of gratitude and something more. Something she still couldn't name. Something that grew in her chest every time she saw Caleb laughing with Sophie, every time he helped without being asked, every time he looked at her with those eyes that said more than words. One Friday evening, after Sophie had already gone to sleep early, exhausted from a busy week at school, Maya and Caleb sat on the small living room couch. She had put a blanket over her legs because the night was chilly. He was next to her, close but respectful, looking at the cup of tea in his hands. "Can I tell you something?" Caleb asked suddenly, his voice low. Maya turned to him. "Of course, always." He was silent for a few seconds, as if organizing his thoughts. Then he began, "I was engaged 3 years ago." Maya waited, without interrupting. "Her name was Amanda, beautiful, elegant, from a well-known family. I thought she was the one. I thought we would build a life together." He took a deep breath. 2 weeks before the wedding, I found out she was pregnant, but it wasn't my child, it was her ex-boyfriend's. And the worst part wasn't even the cheating." His voice grew harder. "The worst part was finding out that the whole thing was a plan. She was going to marry me, have the baby, wait a while, and then file for divorce. Secure a multi-million-dollar alimony. I saw the messages. I read every word, every detail of their plan." Maya instinctively placed her hand over his. "Caleb, I found out she was a gold digger. She only wanted status, money, social position." He continued, "It wasn't love, never was. It was pure self-interest." He looked at Maya, and there was pain in his eyes. "I closed my heart ever since. I decided I would never trust anyone again, that it was safer to be alone than risk being fooled again." "And you stayed alone," Maya said softly, understanding. "I did, for 3 years, until that day at the diner." He squeezed her hand. "But you see me as I am, without wanting anything in return." His voice was choked. "You didn't know who I was when you shared your food with me. You didn't care about money or status. You cared because I was a hungry human being, and that changed everything for me." Maya felt her eyes fill with tears. "You also changed everything for us," she confessed. "You showed up and believed when no one else did. You gave me a chance when I thought I'd never be able to have my own business. You treated Sophie like she really mattered." "She does matter," Caleb said with conviction. "You both matter, more than anything." They were silent for a moment, the kind of comfortable silence that only exists between people who truly understand each other. Then Caleb turned completely towards her. He looked into her clear eyes with an intensity that made Maya's heart race. "I don't want to be alone anymore," he said simply. "You're not alone," Maya replied, her voice trembling. "You have us." "I know, but I want more." The air between them became charged. Maya understood what he was saying without needing words. She saw it in the way he looked at her, in the way he touched her hand, in the way he was present every day. "Caleb," she began, unsure. "I know it's early." He interrupted gently. "I know we barely know each other, but I also know I've never felt this before. This certainty, this peace, this connection." He held her face gently. "I don't want to rush you. I don't want to pressure you. We'll go at whatever pace you need, one day at a time. But I needed you to know that I'm here, that I want to stay, not as a partner, not as a friend, but as something more." Maya felt the tears fall. They weren't tears of sadness. They were of relief, of hope, of happiness. "I feel it too," she confessed, her voice cracking. "I wait for you to arrive in the morning. I'm happy when you stop by the salon. I smile when I see you with Sophie, and it scares me because it's been a long time since I've felt anything like this." "You don't have to be afraid," Caleb said, his eyes fixed on hers. "I'm not leaving. I'm not him. I stay. Promise. I promise. With everything I have. I stay." And then for the first time he leaned in slowly and kissed her forehead, a soft kiss, respectful, full of promise. Maya closed her eyes, feeling his breath close, his warmth, his presence. When he pulled away, they were both smiling. "One day at a time," she said. "One day at a time." He agreed. And they stayed there, on the small couch in that simple living room, holding hands, looking ahead, knowing that something had changed between them. It was no longer just friendship. It was no longer just a partnership. It was the beginning of something true, something neither of them expected to find, but which both desperately needed. And for the first time in long empty years, both Caleb and Maya allowed themselves to believe that maybe, just maybe, love still existed. The kind of love that doesn't come with self-interest, that doesn't come with calculation, that doesn't come with masks. The kind of love that simply happens when two wounded souls meet and decide to heal together. One day at a time. Things changed after that conversation on the couch. But they didn't change suddenly. They changed slowly, like the seasons. They changed in the small gestures, in the glances, in the comfortable silences. Caleb kept showing up every day. But now there was something different in the air, a lightness, a silent certainty that he belonged there. One Tuesday morning he arrived earlier than usual. Maya was still in her bathrobe, her blonde hair messy, preparing breakfast. Sophie was still sleeping. "Sorry to arrive so early," he said, walking in. "I couldn't sleep properly." "It's okay," Maya smiled. "Want to help make breakfast?" And he helped. He cut the bread, put the butter on the table, filled the juice glasses, moving around the small kitchen as if he had always done that, as if it were his kitchen too. When Sophie woke up and shuffled in, still sleepy, she wasn't even surprised to see Caleb there. "Morning," she said, rubbing her eyes and climbing into his lap naturally. "Good morning, champ. Did you sleep well?" "I did. I dreamed we had a dog." "Did you? And what kind of dog?" "A big one, really furry." Maya watched the two of them talk while scrambling eggs in the pan. There was something so natural about it, so right. After breakfast, while Sophie brushed her teeth, Caleb picked up her lunchbox to help pack it. He put in the sandwich Maya had prepared, the sliced fruit, the juice. And then he took a pad of post-it notes that Maya used for reminders and quickly wrote something. He stuck it inside the lunchbox lid. Maya saw it from a distance but didn't ask. She just smiled. When she dropped Sophie off at school later, the girl opened her lunchbox at snack time and found the note. "Have a great class, champ." She smiled hugely and carefully put the paper in her uniform pocket. That became a habit. Every day, a different little note. "You are amazing. Knock it out of the park today. Proud of you. Shine bright, champ." Sophie collected them all. She kept them in a shoebox under her bed. Sometimes she would take them out and read them again, smiling to herself. In the afternoon, when Caleb picked her up from school, she always showed him what she had learned, and he always listened with complete attention. One day, she came out with a rolled-up piece of paper in her hand. "Look what I made in art class." Caleb unrolled it. It was a colorful drawings with 3 people, a blonde woman, a blonde girl, and a tall man, all holding hands, all smiling. Underneath, written in her clumsy handwriting, "My family." Caleb felt his throat tighten. "It's beautiful, Sophie." "It's us," she said, proud. "You, me, and Mommy. It is. It's us." He brought the drawing home to Maya and showed her. She looked at it, her eyes immediately filling with tears. "She sees you as family," Maya said, her voice trembling. "I see you both as family too." They hung the drawing on the refrigerator with a magnet. In the most visible spot, the weeks continued, and the bonds were forming in silence. Caleb started helping Sophie with homework every day. They sat at the kitchen table, notebooks spread out, colored pencils everywhere. He explained patiently. She learned gradually. Maya stayed in the kitchen preparing dinner, listening to them talk, smiling. "If I have 5 apples and eat 2, how many are left?" Caleb would ask. 3, Sophie would answer, proud. "That's right. You're very smart. You're the one who teaches well. We make a good team." One evening, while setting the table for dinner, Maya automatically placed 3 plates. She didn't think about it. She just put them there, as if it were natural, as if it had always been this way. Caleb noticed. He saw the 3 plates, the 3 glasses, the 3 forks, and felt something warm in his chest. "Is there room for me?" he asked jokingly. Maya looked at the plates and realized what she had done. She blushed slightly. "Always," she said simply. They ate dinner together, like every evening now, talking about the day, laughing at Sophie's stories, planning the weekend. After dinner, Sophie would take a bath and put on her pajamas. Then the 3 of them would sit on the couch to watch something on TV. Always a cartoon that Sophie chose. The girl would sit between the 2 of them, her head tilting from one shoulder to the other as sleep arrived. Maya on one side, Caleb on the other, and her in the middle, connecting the 2. One of those nights, Sophie fell asleep before the cartoon ended. Her little head dropped onto Caleb's lap. He looked down, saw the girl sleeping peacefully, and felt a wave of love so strong it almost hurt. "She loves you," Maya whispered, so as not to wake her daughter. "I love her too," Caleb replied, and there was no doubt in his voice. It was the absolute truth. "And me?" Maya asked softly, vulnerable. Caleb looked at her. Her clear eyes were shining in the faint light of the TV. "You too," he said simply. "I love you too." It wasn't a dramatic declaration. There was no background music or planned moment. It was just the truth spoken softly on an ordinary night, and somehow that made everything more real. Maya felt the tears fall, tears of happiness. "I love you too," she confessed. "I don't know when it happened, but it did." They stayed there, Sophie sleeping between them, and looked at each other over the girl's head, smiling, knowing that this was real, that this was forever. Caleb carefully carried Sophie to her room. He put her in bed, covered her with the blanket, kissed her forehead. The girl mumbled something in her sleep and turned over, hugging her teddy bear. When he returned to the living room, Maya was putting things away. He helped. They worked in perfect sync without needing to speak. He washed, she dried, he put away, she organized. Like a couple who has lived together for years. When they finished, it was past midnight. Caleb should have left, but neither of them wanted him to go. "Stay," Maya said suddenly. He looked at her, surprised. "Not that way," she said quickly, blushing. "Stay on the couch. It's late, and you're tired." You don't need to drive all the way home now. Caleb smiled. Are you sure? I am. We're family, remember? Family takes care of each other. Then I'll stay. Maya brought him a pillow and a blanket. She arranged the couch for him. They stood facing each other, not knowing exactly how to say goodbye. Then Maya leaned in and kissed his cheek, close to his mouth, but not on his mouth. A goodnight kiss. A kiss of promise. Good night, she whispered. Good night, he replied. She went to her room. Caleb lay down on the couch, pulled up the blanket, and stared at the ceiling in the dark. He could hear Maya moving around in her room. He could hear Sophie breathing peacefully. He could smell that house, laundry detergent, coffee, something that smelled like home. And he realized he didn't want to be anywhere else. Not in his empty mansions, not in luxury hotels, not anywhere that wasn't here, because this was where he belonged. With them, his family, the family he chose, and that chose him back. And that night, Caleb Morgan slept better than he had in years, because for the first time, he was truly home. 6 months had passed since that day at the diner. 6 months of breakfast together, of homework, of family dinners, of laughter, of little notes in the lunchbox, of drawings on the refrigerator. 6 months of love growing quietly, built day after day. It was a quiet Friday. Maya had made a simple dinner, roast chicken with potatoes and salad. Sophie had eaten well, excitedly talking about the art class she wanted to go to in the afternoon, but the exhaustion of the whole week weighed her down. She fell asleep right at the table, her little head drooping to the side, her clear eyes closing on their own. Come on, my love, let's put you to bed, Maya said softly. Caleb stood up and carefully picked up the girl. Sophie mumbled something incomprehensible, hugged his neck and fell back asleep. He carried her to her room, gently put her in bed, covered her with her favorite blanket, the one with yellow stars. He adjusted the teddy bear beside her and stayed there for a few seconds, just watching. He kissed her forehead for a long time. "Good night, champ," he whispered. When he returned to the living room, Maya was on the small back porch, leaning against the worn wooden railing, looking up at the starry sky. The night was cool, with a gentle breeze that swayed her blonde hair and brought the scent of flowers from the neighbor's garden. Caleb approached silently and stood beside her. For a few minutes, they just stayed there, side by side, in comfortable silence. "What are you thinking about?" he finally asked. Maya smiled without taking her eyes off the sky. "About how fast life changes. 6 months ago, I was struggling alone, barely making ends meet, sharing a plate of food with my daughter. And now I have a salon. I have stability." She turned to him, her eyes shining. "I have you." Caleb gently took her hand. Their fingers intertwined naturally. "Maya, I need to tell you something." She looked at him, waiting, her heart accelerating. He took a deep breath, gathering courage. His heart was pounding, but it was a good nervousness, of certainty. "I thought I would never trust anyone again. After what happened with Amanda, after finding out she just wanted to use me, I built huge walls around myself, walls so high that no one could reach me." He squeezed her hand. "I thought I would never want to start a family again. I thought it was safer to be alone, that it was better not to risk it, not to feel, not to open up." Maya listened in silence, her clear eyes fixed on him. "But you changed that. You and Sophie. You showed me that kindness still exists in the world, that real love still exists. Love without self-interest, love without calculation." His voice became more intense. "And I want that, Maya. I want to build a family with you. Not someday, not in the future. Now, we are already a family, I know, but I want to make it official. I want the world to know." He paused, swallowing hard. "And I want to recognize Sophie as my daughter." Maya's eyes widened, tears beginning to fall immediately. "Caleb, I know she has a biological father. I know I'm not that man, but he's not here. He never was. And I want to be. I want to be her father for real. I want her to have my last name if you'll let her. I want to be able to tell the whole world that this incredible girl is my daughter." He held her face with both hands, wiping away the tears. "I love you both. More than I thought it was possible to love anyone, and I want to spend the rest of my life proving it. Every day. In every way." Maya sobbed, unable to speak for a few seconds. Tears fell non-stop, but she was smiling. "You're already ours, Caleb. You already are. It has been for a long time. Since the day you showed up at our door, since the first breakfast. You just needed to say it." He pulled her into a tight hug. Maya hid her face in his chest, crying with happiness, holding his shirt tightly. "Is that a yes?" he asked, his voice choked. "It's a yes," she replied, looking up at him. "To everything, to family, to recognition, to a lifetime." Caleb smiled, and it was the most beautiful smile he had ever given. And then, finally, he truly kissed her. It was a gentle, careful kiss, full of promise and love. A kiss that sealed everything that had been built. A kiss that said more than 1,000 words. When they separated, they were both crying and smiling. "Sophie is going to freak out when she finds out," Maya said, laughing through her tears. "Then let's tell her tomorrow. Together." And they did. The next morning, Saturday, the three of them had breakfast together as always. Sophie was excited, chattering about the playground she wanted to go to that afternoon. Caleb and Maya exchanged a look. It was time. "Sophie, my love, we need to tell you something important," Maya began. The girl stopped eating, sensing the serious tone. "What is it? Is everything okay?" "Everything is great," Caleb said, smiling. "Actually, it's better than great." He knelt down next to her chair, bringing himself to the level of the girl's clear eyes. "Sophie, you know I love you, right?" "I know," she replied, smiling. "And I love you too. And you know I love your mum." "I know." "You look at each other with silly faces," she said, making them both laugh. "It's true," Caleb admitted. "And because of that, I want to ask you something very important." Sophie became serious, paying attention. "Would you let me be your dad? For real. Not just pretending, but for real. With signed papers and everything." The girl's eyes widened. She looked at her mother, who was crying. She looked back at Caleb. "You want to be my dad?" "I do. Very much. If you let me." Sophie was silent for 2 seconds. And then she jumped out of her chair and threw herself into his arms with force. "Yes, yes, yes," she shouted, hugging him. "I want to. You're already my dad in my heart. Now it will be for real." Caleb hugged her back, hiding his face in her blonde hair, crying openly. Maya joined the hug, and the three of them stayed there, intertwined, crying and laughing. A family. For real. Chosen with love. The following Monday, Sophie went to school with a different sparkle in her eyes. During a presentation about family, she walked to the front of the classroom holding a new drawing she had made over the weekend. "This is my family," she said, showing the drawing of 3 people holding hands. "My mom, me, and my dad." The teacher smiled. "That's lovely, Sophie. Does your dad pick you up from school?" "Yes. He picks me up every day." And that afternoon, when Caleb showed up at the school door, Sophie ran to him and, in front of all the other children and parents, shouted, "This is my dad. He came later, but he stayed forever." Caleb picked her up, his eyes moist. "Forever." He repeated, "I promise." The following weeks were of happy adjustment. Caleb reorganized everything to have more time. He started working from home on the days he could. He participated in every moment of their lives. One day, Maya was at the salon with a client when he showed up. "Hi," she said, surprised. "Did you forget something?" "No, I came to help." "Help?" "Yes." "The salon is busy. You need help." And he started sweeping the floor, cleaning the mirrors, organizing the products, offering coffee to the clients. Maya watched everything with a smile on her face, that billionaire man there, cleaning the salon floor, out of love, out of choice. The clients loved it. They found him attentive, polite, helpful. "Your husband is a sweetheart," one of them commented. Maya didn't correct her, she just smiled. He really is." In the evening, after a busy day, The three of them sat on the old couch to watch a movie. Sophie chose an animated film about a superhero family. They got comfortable, Maya on one side, Caleb on the other, Sophie in the middle. But little by little, Sophie slipped onto Caleb's lap. Her little head rested on his chest, her eyes closed, and she fell asleep there, peaceful, safe. Maya moved closer and snuggled onto Caleb's shoulder. He put his arm around her, pulling her closer. The movie continued, but neither of them was paying attention. They were just feeling that moment, that peace, that completeness. Caleb looked at Sophie sleeping on his lap. He looked at Maya leaning against him. He looked around that small living room with old furniture, with walls that needed painting, and he said softly, more to himself, "Now I have everything." Maya heard him. She squeezed his hand and whispered back, "We have everything." And they did. It wasn't the wealth that Caleb possessed. It wasn't the mansions or the cars or the companies. It was this. It was that moment. It was that girl sleeping peacefully. It was that woman beside him. It was that feeling of belonging. It was love built in the everyday, made of presence, made of care, made of truth. It was a family that no one planned, but that everyone chose. And it was perfect, absolutely perfect. Outside, the night was cold and starry, but inside that small house, there was warmth, there was light, there was love. And for the first time in a long time, all three of them knew exactly where they belonged. Here, together, forever. Caleb closed his eyes, feeling the comforting weight of Sophie on his lap, the warmth of Maya beside him, the smell of that house that was now his house too. And he thought about how life had changed since that day at the diner, since that glass of water, since that simple gesture from a woman and a girl who shared the little they had. They didn't know it, but they had saved him. They had shown him that kindness still existed, that true love still existed. And now he had a family, a real family, not by blood, but by choice, by love, by commitment. And it was everything he had ever wanted, everything he had ever needed, everything. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.